The divine will, the universal fulfiller. The Rishi, having declared the continuity of the great effort and aspiration from the earliest times, hymns divine will, harbored in us, inmate, priest of the sacrifice, master of this dwelling, who fulfills the universal impulse in all its multiplicity and both stimulates and leads it in act and knowledge. Tuvam agna ritayavach samidhire, pratnam pratnasach utaye sahaskrita, purushchandram yajatam vishvadhayasam, damunasam grihapatim vareniyam. Will, who art by force created in us, thee, the pristine power, the pristine seekers of the truth, kindled entirely, that they might grow in their being. The God in the sacrifice, who because he has the multitude of his delights, establishes the all, domiciled in us, master of the dwelling, inmate, supremely desirable.
Vladimir, what is Varenyam?
Varenyam, most desired to choose.
Most desired. Because that word is in that mantra that everybody does,
Right. The Gayatri mantra.
Gayatri mantra.
Yeah, somehow you have this clicking connection. Click, 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 click when you speak.
I do. Oh dear. Okay, let me try something. I'll try something else.
It was long ago. I don't remember. Like a few years back, it was. We were struggling with it for a while, but then it disappeared.
Well, I had a. Let's try this.
All right.
Is that any better? Is it better?
Yeah. No clicking. Okay, so here this, and there is a footnote, the all or foster all, not only he fosters all, can be also Vishvadhaya. Some establishes all or fosters all.
So
yes?
will is the Agna, that's Tuvam Agna.
Yeah, Agni. It is Agni by Sandhi airdrops. Tuvam Agni. Agni is vocative case here.
Because there's no.
Yes.
No, Agna. There's no.
There is no, if you want to check all this, you can see that here there is no accent on the word. Here you can see that it has Svarita on the first syllable, and if Svarita on the first, that shows that Udatta was before, the stress is before, but Agna is an unaccented word, and that is vocative case. The vocative case is always unaccented in between words or at the end of the sentence. It is always accented at the beginning of the sentence. If it would be standing it in front, it would be Agne. Agne tuvam aritayavach. So it would bear the accent on the first syllable. But it is in the second position, that's why it's unaccented. So you, O Agni, Ritayavach, those who seek the dynamic truth, literally, pristine powers, or the pristine seeking, samidhire, they are seeking you, or idhire, kindle you. They
So it's the very act of seeking that kindles Agni.
Yes. No, the seekers of the pristine powers, this is Ritayavach. Ritayu means literally seeking Rita, seeking the dynamic truth. Yeah? Those powers which seek the dynamic truth, Pratnasach, also these are the pristine powers, the powers which are trying, which are aspiring powers. Yeah? Or ancient powers also can be translated. Mm, let me read my interpretation first, and that will help. Interpretation. Because of the multitude delights, he establishes the all Vishwadhyaya. And here Rishi Isha Atreya refers to the previous hymn 576. Him shall mortal man come to know as the Godhead who has the multitude of his desires, that he may establish in us the all. For he reaches forward to the sweet taste of all foods, and he builds a home for the human being. So because Agni is a universal consciousness and has universal demands, uh, as it were, he may establish in us the all. The As Sri Aurobindo is translating it, he has found his dwelling place in man, the Munach. He harbored in us, inmate, priest of the sacrifice, master of his dwelling, who fulfills the universal impulse in us, in all its multiplicity, and both stimulates and leads it in act and knowledge. Sri Aurobindo. I don't see my translation. Usually I put my translation. I
Is
didn't.
it where you said interpretation?
Yeah, I thought I would do it, but I didn't. Somehow I jumped into explanations. Sometimes I forget to do it because I'm kind of carried away by other ideas. And this is the case where I forgot to translate it my
Well,
way.
because of the multitude of delights, that
Maybe. Right.
isn't
Because
that
of
yours?
Yes, it is. But then I refer to these multitudes of delights and drop the rest. But okay, let's go now for the first time. So, will who art by force created in us the pristine, what I don't understand, the pristine powers, the pristine seekers of the truth kindled entirely. So idhire kindled, samidhire entirely kindled, the seekers retayavach of the truth, pristine pratnasach, O Agni, who kindled you entirely, those who seek the dynamic truth, the ancient or the pristine powers. You, Pratnam, the ancient or the pristine power, they, the pristine powers kindled in you, yeah, totally. Utaye, for the support, or Sahaskrita, or the one who is made by force. Sahas force, Krita made, or made by force.
Hmm.
Again, you can see Sanskrit has no accent. That means it is vocative case. It's the name of Agni. Otherwise, I would not know it. Only by accent I can recognize that this is. I could be totally mistaken. Yeah, or it could be also the verb injunctive.
So this kindled entirely
Mm-hmm.
thing, I mean, that has to be maybe only the rishis that are being talked about here, not just the seekers of truth, but the ones who have kindled entirely, which would be somebody who has completely realized.
Yeah, but here he doesn't say rishis. He says those forces or powers or beings who are seeking the divine, the dynamic truth here. That means those who are seeking the divine manifestation in nature. Huh?
But he can't be talking about mankind. There has to be a particular kind of seeker that has kindled the truth entirely.
Right.
It's not just us, regular, people like us who just show up and kind of palaver around the whole thing. There has to be somebody who's done it completely.
Yeah, they're speaking about Pratnasakh powers, yeah? Pratna.
So are they talking about the Devatas then?
From the ancient times, former ancient. The Devatas, yeah, the ancient powers kindled totally the ancient one, you, the ancient one. Those powers who were seeking divine or the dynamic truth, they kindled him, or you made of force. So, who art by force created in us. That's how we, Sahaskrita, that's how Sri Aurobindo translates, quite interesting. Who art by force created in us.
By force, meaning?
Sahaskrita. Sahas is force, literally made by force, Sahaskrita. But he adds in us, yeah? There is no in us, but he adds it for the sake of clarity, and that becomes that idea that we are the carriers of that power within us. So it is telling us something, human beings. Otherwise, why should we have this hymn if it is not about us? It's about somebody else from the beginning of time. So it is within us that they created this force, kindled totally the pristine fire, the pristine forces of seeking to manifest the truth here.
But who's done that? Who's kindled that entirely? If it isn't
Ritayavach, Pratnasach. We do not know. He speaks about the forces who are seeking the dynamic truth, and they are ancient. Ancient forces seeking the manifestation of the divine here. Of course, these are rishis, definitely. These are also maybe pitris, these are gods, these are those sadhyas and all other creatures, yeah, divine beings, and great adityas and maruts and ashvins and Indra and Agni. And they are all these pristine forces which are working from the beginning of time for seeking the dynamic truth here.
Okay, that's a little more clear then.
Purushchandram yajatam vishvadhaya you who is shining wide, whose luminosity is everywhere, Purushchandram yajatam, worthy of sacrifice, vishvadhaya establishing all, damuna domiciled, or who is in our house, Grihapatim, the Lord of our house, Vareniam, the most desired to choose. They kindled him. These are all epithets of Agni. It is interesting to see again the two views, the two different perceptions of our own consciousness. First is that we perceive through the body, we are the body, whereas the soul, the spirit within us, is our immortal guest, so to say, our friend, domiciled, harbored, master of our dwelling. So you see, the whole idea that he is a guest, that he is domiciled, says to us that actually we are not him and him at the same time. Yeah.
Well, if he's the master of the dwelling, right, and the guest within the dwelling at the same time, then he's that's two different statuses there.
Right. And they don't bother that it is contradictory to the mind. Yeah. He is definitely the guest because we are mainly this darker force or the darker unconscious being, which is body, vital, and mind. And he is this so luminous and so different and so far away from being totally realized that we can call him a guest, immortal guest. Because that immortality is not yet realized by us in our outer being. So this duality is implied always. And he is the master at the same time. He is the master of our dwelling, which he doesn't possess yet.
What does that mean? He doesn't possess. There's
Well,
no other possessor.
no, we are. We are here with our unconscious way of living. And that unconscious way of living is not removed yet. So he is not in possession of everything outside. Yeah. So for him to possess it totally, sacrifice is needed. We will have to do the work. Otherwise, if he would possess it already, if he would be the eternal master of our outer being, then there would be nothing to achieve anymore. We would not, we don't need to do the sacrifice. Why should we do it? He possesses already everything. He is not in possession of this world totally. He is the master. He is the Lord. He is the, and at the same time, immortal guest. Immortal guest because he is not in possession of this outer being yet. It is very similar to Ishavasyamidam Sarvam, what is, you remember, by the Lord. All this is to be inhabited by the Lord. Why it is said in that way? But actually Shankaracharya translates it as all this is inhabited by the Lord. But it is not true. Is to be inhabited by the Lord. It's a futurum participle passive voice, or necessitatis participle passive voice. So to be inhabited. All, whatever exists, is to be inhabited by the Lord. He is not yet inhabiting it totally. He is the guest in this world.
Mm-hmm.
In his consciousness, he is not yet totally manifested. That's why the forces who are seeking the divine manifestation or the dynamic truth are kindling here him in us, yeah? In total sense. So samidhire, totally kindle him within us, that we may arrive at this change of consciousness outside. And that is the sacrifice. So to say, our friend, domiciled, harbored, master of our dwelling. When we are identified with the body, we are this dwelling for the spirit within. When we identify with our fallen self, which was formed from the first supreme emanations. Secondly, when we are identified with our soul and spirit as ourselves, then we see the body, the dwelling, as our place or temporarily state, a field of work, a sacrificial ground, as it were, where we have to live, to die, and to die to live, a field of death, which we must cross in our partial awareness, avidyaya mrityum tirtva, in order to reach ourselves and enjoy our self-realization. Vidyayamritam. So there is always these two positions. We are shifting from one to another. We are viewing ourselves as the divine, which is working here in this field, yeah, of time and space, or we are viewing ourselves as that field which is inviting the divine and wants its manifestation. These both views are true and constitute the great vision of the Veda. For we are nothing but Sat-Chit, the being and the consciousness of this being, the fallen self of matter with inherent in it life, mind, and the conscious dweller within, the Purusha, who becomes Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, made out of matter, life, and mind in the evolutionary ascent, the object of sense and the sense, the power and knowledge, the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, the self and the Lord, as Sri Aurobindo puts it in the commentaries on the Kena Upanishad. So it's quite clear, yeah, these two views, and one can really sense them. And we are not even aware of it. We kind of, when we shift towards the supreme status, we feel much more comfortable than when we are identified with the body. By the way, these two views created two different civilizations. Yeah. Vivekananda was very beautifully speaking about it in the Chicago gathering, if you remember. He said Christians believe that we breathe out the host, the spirit. Yeah? So we kind of breathe out. But Hindus believe that we leave the body. So it depends with whom you're identified. If you're identified with the soul, you leave the body. If you are identified with the body, then the spirit leaves you, and you are left as the body. But both views are valid. We are the body and we are the spirit. But we are working in this body for manifestation of the spirit. It's a very trivial view, I guess, for us already. It's not very sophisticated. Okay, let's take number 2. Tuvam agne atithim purviam vishach, shochish kesham grehapatim mishe dire, brhat ketum pururupam dhanaspretam susharmanam suavasam jaradvisham. Will, in thee the supreme guest and master of the house, with his locks of light, the peoples take their foundation, because thou hast with thee vast vision and the multitude of thy forms, and the extraction of our riches, and the perfect peace and perfect being, and the destruction of enemies. There are references in the Supreme, 153 first, both original and supreme. And 154, the hostile powers who try to break up the unity and completeness of our being, and from whom the riches, which rightly belong to us, have to be rescued, not human enemies.
Mm. So is that why it just takes so long? Because of the rescuing has to be done kind of along the way as we're, in other words, I mean, I would think, rationally speaking, if it's your own self, your own inner riches that you already own, and they're already there inside of you, why should it be so difficult to unlock those riches and just live that wholeness of life, except that apparently they're being stolen or sabotaged along the way, and we have to constantly be reclaiming that and somehow, I mean,
Very nice. But we don't see you, Julia. Can you make yourself visible? It would be nice.
it's maybe not as nice as you think, but
No? Why? Oh, here you are. Nice to see you. Hello.
hello, Lynn. Hello, Vladdy. Vladdy.
Vladimir, as they say. Spanish people, they always say Vladimir. I say, please
Vladimir.
don't call me Vladimir. Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. Why it is so difficult to get our own riches out of ourselves? Because we are separated from them by these forces. They come in between. They steal our own inner wealth and hide in subconscious cave of our own being. We cannot reach there. Yeah, between them, between our riches and ourselves, there is this cave. There is a gap which they occupy, and
Are
they
they getting the bliss from it? I mean, are they just sitting there with all of our bliss?
this is what they do. They possess us by this. So they know that they have the best of ourselves, and now they can rule us. They can really sell to us all these riches, exchange. You want to be a little happy? Come to us, and we will give you a bit of your own happiness.
Yeah, it's kind of like the bank, isn't it? It's your
Right.
own money in there, and you have to beg them you have
And
to beg the bank to let you take your own money out.
right, you have to sign many papers, many agreements, contracts to get your money back. And they will think, you give us a little time and we will decide what to do. You want and you can't take all the money at once. Yeah, they will be very concerned why you do that. They will be involved. Governments will come with their taxation. Everybody will come to get a piece of cake out of it. Yeah. Mm. So these are the forces which are separating us, the banks. Yeah, they are, as Sri Aurobindo calls them, the traders, the traffickers. These are panis, um, our indriyas of action. They do not permit us to have our inner perception activated in our life. They will steal it. Every time when we generate a new perception of this wealth, every time we will receive something from above or from within, they will come and snatch it away. And we are left again with nothing and again with nothing until we come there and destroy that vala, that subconscious cave, that wall which separates us from our own treasures, and free our own treasures. These herds of light, they will move towards the dawn and the sun, and there will be no more the wall between us outside and us inside.
Well, is that what the rishi in the previous verse is? Why this kindling entirely, in order to be able to have, I mean, so Agni is the one, or I guess is in these verses anyway. Agni is the one that um, that enables that kindling, so that, I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking there's those caves and all that, and somehow you have to get your own wealth, and it has to be kindled. It has to be burned uh, completely.
Yes, some idhire means totally, absolutely kindled. That means completely kindled. That means the fire, the ancient fire, is totally at work and can receive any sacrifice, any transformation of our being. Transformation of our being creates this wealth which will stay, I think, which cannot be easily snatched by these forces and separated by the wall in the subconscious cave. The sacrifice is allowing us to generate wealth here, which will stay. Whereas any other illumination we may get from the inner self or from the above, the forces can be easily stolen and hidden in this cave. Uh, but if you consciously participate in the sacrifice and consciously offer to this fire, inner fire, it can break the walls of and liberate the treasures. Mm. But we start with what we have. We start offering ourselves, our possessions. There was such a beautiful passage by the mother on this very thing. Mm. Today I read in the morning. Maybe I will come to it in a second. It's really something. Wait a minute, I will find
I'd
it.
like to hear it if you can
Mm.
get your hands on it.
Yeah, it is, I think. Let me see. Mm. Oh, yeah. Here, this passage. Let us read it. You can see it? It's projecting here.
I don't see it.
Okay, I will do it. Why better? I think I have to redo it and make it general. Here it is. So the divine is everywhere. So if one serves humanity, this is the question. If one serves humanity, one serves the divine. Isn't that so? And look how Mother hits. She will hit and destroy this question. That's marvelous. The cleverest thing in this matter is to say the divine is in me. If I serve myself, I am also serving the divine. Loved. In fact, the divine is everywhere. The divine will do his own work very well without you. I see quite well that you do not understand. But truly, if you do understand that the divine is there in all things, with what are you meddling in serving humanity? To serve humanity, you must know better than the divine what must be done for it. Do you know better than the divine how to serve it? The divine is everywhere, yes. Things don't seem to be divine. This is what we are talking today, that it is not outside divine. As for me, I see only one solution. If you want to help humanity, there is only one thing to do. It is to take yourself as completely as possible and offer yourself to the divine. That is the solution. Because in this way, at least, the material reality which you represent will be able to grow a little more like the divine. You are told that the divine is in all things. Why don't things change then? Because the divine does not get a response. The response, this would be the sacrifice. We are not offering it, so it stays away from it. Everything does not respond to the divine. One must search the depths of the consciousness to see this. What do you want to do to serve humanity? Give food to the poor? You can feed millions of them. That will not be a solution. This problem will remain the same. Give new and better living conditions to man? The divine is in them. How is it that things don't change? The divine must know better than you the conditions of humanity. What are you? You represent only a little bit of consciousness and a little bit of matter. It is that you call myself. If you want to help humanity, the world, or the universe, the only thing to do is to give that little bit entirely to the divine. Why is the world not divine? It is evident that the world is not in order. So the only solution to the problem is to give what belongs to you. Give it totally, entirely to the divine, not only for yourself, but for humanity, for the universe. There is no better solution. How do you want to help humanity? You don't even know what it needs. Perhaps you know still less what power you are serving.
Mm.
This is the problem of her. And now she will come to this power. How can you change anything without indeed having changed yourself? In any case, you are not powerful enough to do it. How do you expect to help another if you do not have a higher consciousness than he? It is such a childish idea. It is children who say, I am opening a boarding house. I am going to build a crash where give a soap to the poor, preach this knowledge, spread this religion. It is only because you consider yourself better than others. Think you know better than they what they should be or do. That's what it is, serving humanity. My God, such a hit. Yeah?
Yeah.
You think that you are better than others. That's why you come to serve them. Right? Such an hidden arrogance. I never thought of it. I thought myself, wow, look at this, how it is camouflaged, how it is hiding behind. It's not so visible. You want to continue all that? It has not changed a things much. It is not to help humanity that one opens hospital or a school.
Yeah. It's to help yourself. Yeah.
Oh my God, Mother is merciless here. She just got furious with this helping humanity thing. But it can be also coming from the person with a specific vibration, you know? It
Yeah.
could be. It's not necessarily, if it would come from somebody who really wants to make changes in the world, yeah, then it could be a very different answer. Okay, so it is in Agni, the guest and the master of the house, the conscious force in the unconscious being here that men take their refuge in. So men choose to identify not with the body, but with him as themselves. And he is conscious and knows the way out of this unconscious existence, having his vast perception, Brihat Ketu, and multitude of his formations of power, Pururupa, being a savior of the divine treasures lost in the subconscious darkness, Dhanasprita, perfect in perfect protection, Suavas, and above all, hating all those who are not growing but stagnating, Jarad Visha. He destroys them to allow new things to emerge. I didn't read the translation, or I read, yeah? Will in the supreme guest and master of the house, with his locks of light, the people take their foundation because thou hast with thee vast vision and multitude of thy forms, and the extraction of our riches, and the perfect peace and perfect being, and the destruction of enemies. Nishedere. So it is in you that they take their seat. Yeah, nishedere, they sit within you. Tuam agne atithim purviam vishach nishedere. The people, those who entered into this manifestation, take their seat in you, in the guest, as it were. In the first one, in the supreme Purviyam, Atithim, in the supreme guest, Shochishkesham, with flaming locks of hair, Grihapatim, the lord of the house, Brihat Ketum, with a vast intuition, Ketu as a ray of intuition, Pururupam, with form which is found in many places, Dhanaspritam. Dhanaspritam, perfect in protection. Dhanaspritam, Susharmanam, perfect in protection. Dhanaspritam, I translate as being a savior of the divine treasures lost in the subconscious darkness. This is my translation. Should have been the extraction of our riches. Dhana Spritam. Oh,
The instruction?
no, extraction. Sprita
Extraction.
se, extraction, sorry, extraction.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah, saved, gained, won, sprita. Dhana, money. The one who saved our money, our treasures. The savior of our treasures. And Suvavasam, with perfect growth and protection. Jaradvisham, the
So Agni
destroyer.
is the one that is protecting our riches?
Right. And not only protecting, saving them or extracting them from those forces of darkness. He is one of those devatas who comes to this Vala and destroys Vala. Indra, Maruts, and Agni, and Brihaspati. These are four deities mentioned who destroy the wall between our inner treasures and our outer being.
Vala. I haven't.
Vala.
Now, Vala is the one that is all the gemstones.
Right. These are gemstones of our inner treasures.
Uh-huh. So the teeth and the blood and the hair and all of this of Vala are all the different gems. So, but I mean, those are the real, the material gems. But in this case, they're talking about the luminous fields of bliss and internal vision that our real treasures constitute.
Right. Well, Vala is actually from root vri, to cover, as vritra is. Yeah, they are both, only Vala is l changed into r. And it's like a wall, very similar in etymology. Yeah? It's a wall, a separation of our inner and outer being, which is done by the subconscious cave, which Vala represents. The name of the subconscious cave is Vala. It's a godhead of that cave.
But so that subconscious cave, it could be either the place where your wealth is stored, or it could be the place where the demonic forces kind of ambush or sabotage from.
Well, Vala has our treasures as in the bank and does not deliver it to us. We don't get access to those treasures. Only we are sold once in a while if we do something for those forces of darkness. That's why it's so difficult for us to survive in this world. And to get a little ananda from this being, we have to come to these forces and serve them. We cannot beat them, they are too strong. But we can come with the light, with the inner light, with the gods, Indra, Agni, and Brihaspati, and break the wall. That means the birth of our inner treasures, the birth of our inner being, which is coming to the front. Otherwise, it is separated from us. There is an abyss or the wall between us and our inner self. We are not aware of our inner soul and inner light. Very rarely we have that in front, if at all. Some people are not aware at all about it. They don't even believe that they have a soul. So they sell themselves totally to these darker forces, forces of selfishness, separation, or to all these rakshasas, paishachas, to all these, valas, panis, and they, with selling themselves to these forces, they get little by little here and there some peanuts, which these forces exchange for being actively engaged in our life and stealing more and more our inner perception and selling to us peanuts of it. That's what is happening constantly. They are traffickers and traders of our inner treasures. They stand between us and our inner self.
Good work if you can get it, eh? That's pretty easy.
Well,
We're so easy. We're so
well,
we're
they
so
already
peaceful.
settled for a long time here, so they feel totally at home in our midst. Yeah? And that's why rishis speak about this eternal guest fire, which is totally kindled within us. If he could take charge of our being, things would change. He will break this and save our treasures from these forces. But
So the only way to get that to happen is that you have to be 1,000 completely 100% willing to give up your individual preferences and just give them to the divine and say, let thy will
absolutely.
be done. And so the only way out is to just give up.
Yeah, all our individual preferences are made by these darker forces, and we think it is our preferences. We believe even so. We don't even see that, truly speaking, they are not ours. They are made by these forces, and they created in us this sense of self-identity with this way of living, which we call ourselves or ego sense. Yeah, that I want this. Do I really want? Yeah, there is this want. There is this power in me. But where it is coming from, I am not examining. I think, oh, okay, I have a power, I have a desire. I go and satisfy it. I don't see that this desire is being generated by these enemies. They are pushing me to go and do whatever their bidding is. They want to get their things done through me. And every time I get some glimpse of myself or higher light, they immediately snatch it. I get it, yes, I have it, but they are there, very awakened. They wait for me to get it, and the moment I get it, they're taking it into the subconscious cave. More treasures, more for us to sell to you back, and that's how we are.
Yeah, it's what a horrible
That's yeah. What
yes.
mother says. If you would see what you are surrounded with what forces and what you feed all the time, you would really want to get out of that suffocated state of being. We are not aware even in what kitchery we live. It's such a masala of forces. Everybody is benefiting um, through us, eating our energies, pushing us to be afraid, to pushing us to be to into anxiety that we will,
To age even.
yeah, and to get out of us everything they can. And then they sell this to us as their own treasures. So to get somewhere, to succeed in something in outer life, we have to come to them, not directly to ourselves. We are separated from ourselves,
But
from
if
our.
you come to the gods, if you come to the devatas, if you come, I mean, this is what the rishis are doing in the Vedas here. They're coming to, they're calling, constantly calling to the higher forces to come and protect. But they don't always, they don't always do that if you call them.
Yeah, need
Excuse me.
we need but these higher forces, these devatas, are our higher forces. Yes, and they are personalities. They can come and do certain work. But we can get also illuminations to our soul, which is coming as knowledge or power or peace, and that can be snatched. The gods cannot be destroyed by these lower forces. There will be fight between them. If the gods come as personalities, they will fight with these forces, and that's what we need. We need fighters on our side. Yeah? We cannot give in Truly speaking, it's impossible to give in to these forces. These are thieves, robbers, murderers, abusers. They would enjoy to abuse you totally and abuse for eternity. This is the way how they get the energy out of you. What they care is energy. You can generate energy because you have the divine spark in you. That's all that matters for them. You generate soma, food, and with this soma we feed these forces all the time. And they share with us some portion of that soma which we receive back, and we are very grateful to them.
You could be just. We have this wonderful institution known as the gambling casinos, which was such a perfect embodiment
Example.
of this whole principle.
Right. Casinos, gambling, yeah, they are directly coming to you. Yes, they are directly manifesting without any intermediary. Money, you gambling. You can go straight ahead with these. Yeah.
But so we need to interrupt this pattern somehow. We have to find the way that's available to us to be able to interrupt that flow of energy in that goes into the dark cave and depletes it from our consciousness. It moves it out of our own consciousness. So there has, I mean, and the sacrifice, I mean, I'm not even sure that, the Vedic sacrifice, there's been all this, forever. I mean, that the Brahmins are the ones that are the negotiators of the sacrifice, and that it's not really available to an ordinary human to do their own sacrifice. And
Yeah, these gods are our powers. We can offer to them our delight, and they will bring more presence into our and fight for us. That's what we need. Somewhere, Mother says very beautifully about these dark forces. She says, somebody asked her, "Can we convert these forces?" And she says, "We can convert them only when they want to be converted. We have
well,
to."
that's right. That's like, you can't help anybody. You
Yeah.
can't help anybody unless they ask you for it. Because even if, like you said, these Christians and everybody, they think that they're going to, or that quote from Mother, that you think that you're going to be helping humanity by giving them your thoughts on what's the right way to live and all of that. But you can't change anything about anybody unless they want it.
Correct. Correct. And the anti-divine forces, these darker forces, are even more difficult because she says they have the reason, or the she uses the word, they have the gap, or the reason to not to follow the divine much deeper than
Sure.
superficial reasons.
I would think so, because they're getting all the soma.
Right, and they to convert them is much more difficult. But still, if they agree, they can convert into the divine force immediately and become the best bhaktas of the divine, the best workers for them.
You know who I'm thinking about when we're saying that is Vibhishan.
Right.
Vibhishan was the embodiment of that. Vibhishan is the brother of Ravana.
Of Ravana, yes. He was announced as a traitor by Ravana and so on and so forth. But
He's
he
my
said,
favorite character.
yeah, but he wasn't a traitor. He understood the greatness of Rama. He understood who is the right lord of this world, even being close to Ravana, who claimed to have this lordship.
So you have to you have to be a Vibhishan in order to get out of. You have to be a traitor then.
Right. There was Indrajit also. There was Indrajit, who was
Indrajit, who was son of Ravana, but he's the one. I mean, he inherited the kingdom, didn't he?
Yes, but he was tapasvin and he was sannyasin in a way. He didn't care about much of whatever Ravana wanted. Ravana told him to fight, and he actually defeated Lakshmana. He was very powerful because he was sannyasin. He was withdrawn. Yeah, he was kind of beyond this, but he was serving wrong force. Mm. But they can be converted. Either conversion, the fastest conversion is destruction by the divine, as Ravana was killed by Rama. It's the greatest and direct conversion. The form, the evil form is destroyed, and the divine essence is released
But
finally.
somehow you have to deserve that direct. You
Right.
have to deserve the
Direct attention of the divine. Yes, correct.
You can't just get it by wishing for it.
Right. Sri Aurobindo in aphorism says, if you can't love the divine, you better grip him in the fighting mood. Yeah, then then you will get attention of the divine, and it will strike you and liberate you, like Ravana did. It was the fastest way to be liberated. It's weird to think in those terms. Yeah.
Yes.
But it is what it is, yes.
It's mysterious.
So he is also the one who destroys the enemies, Jarad Visham, Dvish. He is devourer of the haters or the enemies.
But it isn't just Agni who does that, is it? I mean, it's all. I mean, Indra would do that. Brihaspati would do that. I mean, any of them would take if they were if they were of a mind to do it.
Right. But they have to come through Agni only. So Agni is their gate. So they become Agni, or Agni becomes them, as it were. And then he delivers.
So when you're doing this invoking of Agni, it's kind of like you're Agni's the catch-all for everybody. I mean,
correct. This is, I already got your thought in the subtle way. Yes, it is him. Him is all the gods. We remember we read the whole hymn where all the gods are identified with Agni. And they cannot come to this world without Agni. They cannot act upon this nature of ours without Agni. Agni is the divine will which is dragging them down and sacrificing all these divine powers here, bringing them in for the action. Yeah? They would not come without Agni. They don't
so
want
the
to come.
Homa is just symbolic then. A Homa is symbolic of that Agni force being the intermediary for the whole of all of the divine and all the divine personalities.
Right. Well, symbolic and practical, yes, and totally practical, because the divine will is the only power here which can do this activities of transformation. And it requires the forces of the divine, all kinds of forces, to do it. So the divine will knows how to do it, in what order, in what process, how to engage these forces, so where to activate them, where deactivate them. So it does it perfectly. So we invoke Agni, and Agni will do the work. But rishis made much more complex their discipline. They introduced many more forces. Yeah? Kind of, we can invoke directly those forces. But of course, Agni has to be kindled. The divine will has to be there already. No sacrifice, no transformation is possible without Agni. All right. Okay, we can stop here for today and continue next time. I'm glad that we reassembled.
Yes, I have a question. Would you mind scrolling down? I like seeing the glossary
Sure,
there on this page,
sure,
and we didn't spend much time on it, but I can take a snapshot.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. I will close with mantra then. Om Vang me manasi pratisthita mano me vachi pratishthitam aviravirma edi vedasyama ani stha shrutam me ma prahasihi anena dhitena horatran samdadhami Ritam vadishyami, satyam vadishyami, tanmamavatu, tadvaktaramavatu, avatu mam, avatu vaktaram, avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you
See you.
both so
Namaste.
much.
Yes.
So
Next-
are we meeting next week at the same time and all that?
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great.
And what about Friday?
Friday we are on. I'm
Okay.
here.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
both.
you. Bye.
Bye.